Hey, Christy Mattoon here with Rewire. Like, share, subscribe. I greatly appreciate that. It helps my efforts and allows me to keep doing things like this for you. So this little series right here is about how to use a whole brain state to calm or bring more benefit from the good emotions into your system. And so that is what we're talking about today. And I'm actually talking about neutralizing. We want to talk about why this works the way it does and what the key parts of it are. So a whole brain state is literally activating both hemispheres of your brain, so it works as a whole brain instead of working like one hemisphere more so than the other. When you put yourself into a whole brain position, a whole brain posture, you're merely crossing your arms and legs over midline of your body. When you do that, it triggers your brain to set yourself up to stabilize your system to whatever you're thinking about or whatever you're doing muscularly. So if you're doing an exercise and you all of a sudden cross midline of your body, your brain has to re-stabilize the system. It's the same thing with thinking or with emotions. If I actually think of an issue or a subject or think about an emotion, and I cross my arms and legs while I'm thinking about it, my brain has to re-stabilize the system. It kind of moves the neural pathways around and it makes you basically see things differently. It will cause subconscious change. It will cause you to be a different person by allowing yourself to sit in a whole brain state, especially if you've got a lot of stuff locked in your brain. When you understand it on the level of we're not just getting rid of something, you're actually neutralizing something. I'm going to explain neutralizing to you in just a second. And you're bringing a higher level of emotion into your system. You're bringing a higher level of chemicals into your system that cause you to feel different. All right? If you're only doing something by way of I want to get rid of this emotion, so I have this anger to this subject, I need to get rid of it, it's probably going to haunt you for a while, because the more you focus on getting rid of it, you're focusing on it, and it will cause more of it, right? It's the way the system works. If I put my focus and attention on something, I create it. I create more of it. If I'm wanting to move something like that or calm something down in my system like that, I first calm the system down by breath work. You can do that with breath alone. And then I put myself in a whole brain state. While I'm thinking about the thing, I find the proper pattern, go back a few videos. I've done it a few times, so you can figure out how to do that super easy. I've walked you through it. And then while you're doing that, you're noticing this change, this feeling difference in your body. It's that feeling difference that is the neutralizer. It's not the whole brain state itself. That's a pathway to get you there. The thing that actually neutralizes it and switches this out in your system is that new level of feeling, right? With the thing broken up and gone. Now here's the problem with this for some people is they don't feel anything. They're not getting a difference in a level of feeling, or they're not recognizing it when they do because they're so used to not feeling good. If that makes any sense. If it's you, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Holding or feeling a higher level of feeling can literally feel like not feeling the thing you just felt. So if I'm in this weird level of anger or confusion or frustration or sadness, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden I don't feel that, some people will just notice that feeling is gone. The other feeling, what showed up, if that's not there, what is that feeling? I say label it peace. Call it something with a higher vibration to it. By doing that, you're calling in a higher vibration. Does that make sense? Let me describe neutralizing to you. So without using a whole brain state, you could effectively neutralize something. Neutralizing, here's the definition of it. And I have another video on this that you can find in here in my YouTube channel somewhere. Neutralizing simply means to render something ineffective or harmless by applying an opposite force or effect. If I apply an opposite force or effect, I'm going to neutralize the thing that is, right? Whatever it is that's bugging me. The key is I have to stay in the opposite force or effect. So if I use love to neutralize anger, I have to stay in this higher feeling of love. If I go back into the anger, be in the anger. It's literally a choice. Humans have this amazing ability to be able to choose an emotion and switch back and forth relatively quickly. And so you choose that better feeling, you feel it, right? Your body starts to break up this old level of neuroplastic and you start to feel this open, more expansive. People describe it as expansive, just this higher, lighter feeling. And some people say, well, the other feeling's gone and this feels different. I don't know what that is. That's peace. You found a level of peace. And it's cool once you like recognize it, you're like, oh, right? So then you can go on the journey or on the search for other higher level emotions, especially if you're not a feeling person. And I hate to say this, but we were trained not to feel. And what we were trained not to feel higher level emotions. We were trained to feel the lower ones. Everything in our world, and I'm 53, I think, 54. Everything in our world, even from back then, we're talking back in the late 60s, was designed to make you feel not so good about yourself. You're not a good enough person. You're not a good enough female. You're not a good enough wife. You're not a good enough mother. You're not a good enough student. God forbid you would be good enough to be in the church that you went to. Literally, that's how I feel like I was taught stuff. It's a pretty rough road. But when you recognize, okay, that's not how the system itself is set up. The system itself, if you utilize it and you understand how it works, is set up to bring you into those higher states of emotion. If you can train that into your subconscious, which is how I think it was meant to be to start with, all of a sudden you just live there. You're just there. You can't really affect this, right? So neutralizing the emotion is to render it ineffective or harmless by applying. By is the key word here. It's the activator. I have to apply an opposite force or effect. Have to apply the opposite force or effect to neutralize the thing you don't want. So if I'm sitting there and I just merely get rid of this feeling, and I hear this all the time from people, I sat there, I was in a whole brain state, I could feel it breaking up, and then 3 days later it came back. Why? Because you didn't apply the opposite force or effect. You didn't apply love. You didn't apply joy. You didn't apply peace. If you apply those kind of higher level emotions, that other stuff has to cease. It can't be there. And sometimes you have to keep applying it. You're either in one or the other, correct? You're either in anger, something negative, pick one. I'm going to use anger, or you're in peace or one of the higher level emotions. And you choose it. I either choose to be in this place of anger because somebody did something, said something, acted like something, showed me something, like whatever the thing is. I'm either here or I'm in peace. And I choose. So let me give you an example. I actually got attacked this weekend on YouTube. Somebody went through a bunch of my videos and left all these scrappy messages that I was just like, I don't even know who you are. Like, I don't even know who this person is. And I bless you, because what you did for me was make me step back into some peace. I had a pretty rough weekend. On top of, and then coming up and seeing that, and I was like, wow, really? All right. Here's the cool thing about social media. There's a click button, delete, right? It's a no-brainer in my head. If I choose peace, I'm not going to let that stay on my stuff. If I choose peace, I want to see things that bring me peace. I have to do things that surround me with peace, yes? And so when somebody says something, like this was a lot of saying stuff, whatever they're saying, it could take you to, and you choose, could take you 2 different directions. I could get angry, I could get frustrated, I could get fearful, I could get all these things, and I sit in there in a level of peace, and I'm like, oh. And in my head, the compassion, right? The compassion starts to grow. In my head, compassion started to grow. My heart was already open with compassion because I was in peace, which is what I trained myself to be in. I trained peace into my system for a long time. And then my brain went searching for compassion for this person, like, what on earth? And in my compassion, all I have to do is hit a delete button or a unfollow button, or I don't even know what it was that you hit in this thing, but there's something in there where you can, a block button. You choose. You choose. You choose who surrounds you. You choose what emotions you allow to flow through you. So how do you do this in the idea of a whole brain state. If something comes into my world and upsets me, something happens, something goes on, I could start breathing. Big breaths in, long deep breaths out. And then I think about the something, all of the emotion that came with it, the weird heart pangs and the whatever all the stuff was. And then I cross my ankles. I find the strongest pattern. I hang out in there. I do the same thing with my wrists. And I sit here. And I go straight to compassion. You say, well, I don't know what compassion feels like. Compassion feels like a puppy dog. Compassion feels like the first time you get to hold this little tiny kitty cat. Compassion feels like the first blooms in springtime. And I just sit there. So neutralizing is rendering something ineffective. I rendered all of the stuff that was put there ineffective by applying an opposite force or effect. Compassion, peace, and I sit in a whole brain state. And all I'm focusing on, I'm not focused on anything that happened, anything that was written. I'm focusing on compassion. Inside your heart, it feels different than out here, right? Or in here, whatever you think compassion feels like. If I take it and I put my awareness in my heart space, compassion just flourishes, because now it's compassion from spirit, from inside your heart, your spirit, the spirit of God, however you look at that, the spirit of all that is, right? All the wonderful things that we surround ourselves by, the connection between us, even the ones of us that throw out wonky stuff. And my heart just continues to open, continues to open. I've effectively neutralized that issue. In a whole brain state, I start to seed it back into my subconscious mind. That can happen, and I feel compassion. Every time I do that, I grow compassion. Every time something like that happens and I do my thing and go into compassion and find the right pattern and be there with it and feel compassion, I've effectively neutralized the situation. It shows up again, I do it again. And I'm training compassion. Your brain will start to create the files and the pathways that say, when this happens, go to compassion. When this happens, go to compassion. Does it make sense? Does that help? This particular episode of How to Use a Whole Brain State is about neutralizing an emotion, about the effectiveness of the neutralizing by applying a higher state or a higher value, or what does the definition say? Applying an opposite force or effect. In this case, meaning a higher level emotion. You apply the higher level emotion, the longer you walk in it, the longer you stay in it, the longer you keep yourself in that higher level emotion, those other things are going to happen. You're still on planet Earth. It's going to happen. You're going to be there, and you're going to go straight to compassion, and you're going to act in compassion instead of acting crazy and responding, or I don't even know, whatever we would normally do. You don't have to do it, because I'm in a different space. You're in a different space when you get into this space. I bless you. I hope this helps. If this helps you, please share it. It might help somebody else. And leave comments below that are beneficial. Ask questions that will help the whole. I always appreciate that. You're amazing. You should know it. I do know it. I'm impressed by you for even being here. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one.